So we thought we'd bring on Brad to talk about TFC, but more about the fan perspective. Where are the fans at this point? I know there's been some real unrest the last few weeks, Brad, but at the same time, they're coming off an impressive win when there is Insigne, the much maligned Insigne, actually played really well. You're in the red patch section every single match. You travel with this team as well. Where are the fans? Where are the hardcore fans? Are they frustrated? Are they angry? Are they hopeful? Where are you at?
Well, they're not hopeful. And where I'm at is I'm basically at my, at the end of the tunnel right now. Like,
oh no,
I got a message the last game, the DC game, from a good friend who's in the South End. He said, "Are you here today?" I said, "I haven't been here since the home opener." He said, "Wow, wild times." And I said, "Yep." I'm like, the club has shown that they just don't seem to be committed to what they are talking about. Whenever they get behind a mic, whenever they send out an email, whenever they, try to say that they're changing or the culture, they need us, but they're not doing anything in the foreground that is showing any type of change that they speak about. And it all seems to be hollow words that supporters have had enough of over the last 4 years. And it's got to a breaking point where it's just like, it's not worth my time. It's not worth a lot of our members' time to put out the type of energy that's required in the South End and in all the stadium, for that matter, when we're not seeing the same type of energy being reciprocated from the team itself. And, there's a lot of hollow words that are spoken by the coach, by upper management. And when I look at it, I was the Red Patch Boys president for 4 years, from 2020 through COVID, back from COVID. And then just basically in year 4, which was midway through 2023, I just said, I've met with the front office. I've met with Jason Hernandez. I met with other, people as being a president of a supporters group, and they want to get feedback from our members and from our group. I just said, I just don't see what the plan is here. I don't see how you can talk one way and do something different.
Other like-minded fans like yourself who have been there from day one, but this season have not returned, and I guess waiting for that big moment. But are there others more than just yourself?
There's more. I think a lot of people hit their breaking point after the Montreal game, honestly, and it was just like this. There is nothing to play for. I did a little bit of math on the playoffs for this year, and I mean, playoffs are playoffs. Everyone should get in. Like, if you're a half decent team, you should be able to, finish top 9 in the league, a league that gets 9 teams in. The 9th place team right now is on pace for one of the highest points pace for a 9th place team in years, which is almost 50 points. Now I see like TFC is on like 10 points with 22 games left. They would have to average almost 1.8 points per game to make the playoffs again this year, which, when people look at that, it's like, they haven't even hardly, been able to manage 1 point per game over the last 4 years. And now you're expecting almost double that in the next 22 games. I don't see where it's coming from. And a lot of people are looking at that and also realizing this is another lost season. And it just continues to be lost season over lost season. And it doesn't even look like the moves that they're making. Sure, they're making short-term moves with loans and, in contracts. But they said last year that, we're going to be doing stuff in the off season to make it easier, or not make it easier, but make it more, I guess the word is easier, make it easier to rearrange and replenish the roster. But I just don't see, I don't honestly believe that the person in charge of making those decisions is the right person, for the simple fact that Jason Hernandez, I met him, really nice guy. However, and a lot of people say that, I'm just not sure that he's the right guy to do that massive rebuild that this club deserves, when he was put in charge by one of arguably the worst presidents in finding talent in our franchise's history. Sure, he had the Javinko and the Altidore and Bradley years, but he had also had a great guy in Tim Bezbachenko working right side by side of him. He had a guy like Tim Lewicki who could find those types of things. I give Bill Manning credit as the president, but there was a lot of other good brains with him. And right now I'm just like, he has appointed how many different managers, how many like player signings has he signed that are just not worked out? And now he's given Jason Hernandez the wheels to the car. And I'm just like, the track record says, how is this possible?
But do you think in Jason's defense, he is so shackled by that big contract to Lorenzo Insigne, and there just isn't the room to navigate through a really important rebuilding offseason until that deal is gone? Is there patience with that regard?
I get that, but then in the offseason, you said everything is on the table. And even Keith Pelly said in his end-of-year press conference, was straight out asked, if the board gave you the opportunity to buy out the Italians, would you do it? And there was a great quote that I think I still have even like tagged in my Twitter. If I go to it, it said, the biggest takeaway, if we present a holistic plan with a deep strategy, then I believe ownership will support the move. So where was the, deep strategy and, everything else in the offseason to do that? And it just doesn't seem like they were able to work around it. And even getting Insigne off the books, there's still loads of other contracts using GAM, TAM, all the MLS bucks, funny money, that we had $0 of when that came out last week. I think TFC was one of the only clubs to have zero GAM left. So they have nothing left to spend. Like this summer, this is the team.
Yeah, this season is right off. Sorry, go ahead, Wonga.
So I every time we have someone on, I always think of the tipping point, the moment of truth kind of thing. What was your tipping point where you went from I can't do this, like, hey, I'm all in, to I can't do this anymore? Was there a specific moment? And if there was, what was it?
2023 midway through was, but coming into this season, I literally said I was not going to go to any TFC games if Lorenzo Insigne was still on this team, because I was told throughout the offseason and in the press conference after last season, enough is enough. Buy this guy out. Do what you do. You got 10 million, 15, 20, whatever it is, get this guy out of the team. He is not part of the massive rebuild that they talk about to get in. And as the preseason went on, it looked like, okay, they're probably not going to take him out. And friends were like, are you still not coming to games? And I'm like, you know what? I'll adjust my fandom, and I'll say, as long as he's benched and he's not playing and he's not starting, I'll show up to games. So they started on the road. Insigne didn't play. I said, all right, I'm coming to the home opener. I came to the home opener. The very next game on the road, he plays, and I said, that's it. I'm out. I'm not putting up with this. And then I see him with the armband a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was the Montreal game in the Canadian Championship. And I'm like, now you're giving this guy the armband after everything that, you've said, or, that's been spilled, behind the scenes in front of whatever. There's just, it was that breaking point, basically, when it's basically, words that are not true anymore. I don't believe anything that they kind of say.
Is that generally the feeling with all the fans about Insigne?
I would say so. I mean, I don't want to speak for all the fans, but it's sure, he scored a goal this week against a DC United team, but that's a bad DC United team. That's a team that they actually should have beat in the first game of the season. They were up 2-1 on that team, I believe, and drew 2-2. But I looked at that first game of the season when they played DC, and I said, this is a bad team. Like, they have Christian Benteke and a bunch of really young kids, like not a proven roster. And I said, cool, you just beat like another team that's not going to make the playoffs. Show me what you're going to do now. Like, this Cincinnati team they're playing on Wednesday has loads of talent up front. Now we're going to see, well, I mean, we could already see what they do against talented teams anyway, but, we might get a dose of reality again. Reality check on Wednesday.
Brad, there's been so much focus on Insigne, and I think almost unfairly, but it almost disguises what's happening from a strategic standpoint with TFC. And you're talking about Pelly's words like deep strategy and holistic view, which to me was maybe just used to placate fans, right? And then like you get them to hang on until the beginning of the season. And you're even saying you shift a little bit in terms of your expectations. And as long as Insigne's benched, but even if he went away, is the organization doing enough in your estimation to rebuild meaningfully, even if they're hamstrung in terms of all the player acquisitions and no GAM? We know what they're up against, but what would they need to do in terms of an actionable step or strategy to win you back, Insigne aside?
Not bring back 80% of the roster next season. Like when they said that they were going to do a full rebuild and everything was on the table, I was like, okay, there's going to be a lot of transactions in this offseason. And there was maybe like 3. Like there was like Monlouis came in at center back. You brought in Corbianu and Bryn Holtzen, and that was it. Like the rest of the core of the team was the exact same team. And I was like, okay, if you're doing a full rebuild, you need these players out of here. So why are you saying and the thing that was said in that press conference as well was Keith Pelly was like, we have to get it right before 2026 because we need to have this team, be, not a laughing stock when visitors come to Toronto and they're like, is there a football team here? And they're like, yeah, this crappy TFC team that won 1 championship and has been a disaster for, the 19 years of existence otherwise. And I just don't see this team being even close to being competitive with the type of roster that it has currently constructed. And even the signings that Jason Hernandez has made are, they're average, below average at best, honestly. Like there's nobody that he's brought in and I've gone, you know what, that was a real, throw something against the wall and actually hit. Like nothing is sticking to the wall.
You can though turn around MLS teams quickly with the right signings. We've seen that. You don't need to stick in the mire for years and rebuild through youth. You need youth, you need a young team, obviously, but you see it all the time. A couple of really great signings, you can have a competitive team.
Look what San Jose did. They were the
worst place.
Yeah, what they won the wooden spoon last year, and they are just like Arango and Joseph Martinez looks like he's revived in San Jose. Like it's not, and they even say it. They said, "Oh, this is like it's not hard to quickly turn around." Well, you're surely making it look like it's really hard to turn around.
So what do you need to see to return to the stands? Is that even possible this season, or are you? If there is not at all this season, even if they ditch Insigne this summer, if they find a way, no. Like
the only reason I'll come back, I'll be back the end of this month, and I'll be back in June. I have a couple of friends that I shared season tickets with in the past, and they've moved. One's moved to Australia, one's moved to Montreal, but they're coming back to visit. And the only reason I would go was just because that was a cool place to hang out with them. We had season tickets before, so when they're back, go back, hang out, drown in the misery of this this terrible
drown in the misery.
But that's about it. It's like there's no reason to go back except for the people, and that's honestly the only reason really to go back is the people in the stands.
But there must
Brad,
be...
other than Footy Prime, how are you getting your footy fix? What is taking Sharms and I talked about this yesterday, that we do a lot of sitting on the couch sometimes, maybe too much, while I've got to work today. So it's 4 hours of the morning. What are you filling your time with if it's not TFC? Because that was a big part of your life for a while. And right now it's not. Is something else. It's about opportunity costs as a fandom and creating fandom. And now you've been able to explore other opportunities. What are you doing now other, to fill that TFC void?
He's going to West Ham games.
It's true. I saw that.
Right, no, I'm just I'm putting a lot more energy into the Canadian national team. So
I saw that.
Yeah, I was in LA for the Nations League final for that. And that's another thing that it's disappointing about TFC is I would go when the schedule comes out in the winter, I would circle his calendar, be like, oh, Nashville away or LA away.
Right.
These are like games I want to go to. I haven't been to a TFC away game since 2023 in Nashville, and like every year I would at least do one away or two away trips for that. So I won't say that I'm obviously still following the club. I watch the games every game, but just not in the stands. I still watch it on TV. I still follow the club. So it's not that I've totally just disbanded them. It's just I'm just not showing up to games and paying the concession fees and the everything else that goes into it and the time to actually get down there. So I'll go to my local pub, ask them to put on Apple TV, 2 hours, done, move on.
How difficult is it, Brad, to get everybody back? I mean, if they turn this thing around, these diehard fans, are they still there waiting to come back? I know that you would probably be back if things turn around, but is that generally the case throughout the fan base? I
think it is. I think it's just get it right. Like we'll always be there. It's just you got to get it right. Like I look at a great example is the LA Galaxy supporters, the LA Riot Squad, and I forget the other one, Angel City Brigade. They finally had enough of their ownership there and the dire years that they were having over and over and over again, and they finally just did a full. We're not coming back to games until one, the president is removed from his duties, and two, someone is brought in with extreme experience to take over the project, and they did it. They fired their manager, their president. The very next year, they won MLS Cup, and now, I mean, this year they're right back on the spoon. But at least they did get a cup. Like, I mean, at least they showed that they could turn it around, and I think that's something that the fans will always be there. It's just so at some point you just got to say, you know what, I'm stepping aside. It's almost like you're an adult and your kids grow up and it's like they're failing, and it's like, well, you got to let them fail, and then I'll pick them up once they're ready. So
Brad, I want to ask you about something you hit on before about your possibility of returning to matches was linked with the people that you share the season tickets with. And Wonger touched upon it with the filling the TFC void. Like it's that feeling of community. So performance aside and roster construction and player acquisitions aside, I know they're inextricably linked, but just from a community standpoint, in talking to the fan base and Pelly talking about wanting the team to not be a laughing stock when the world arrives in Canada for next year's World Cup, what could they be doing more from a community initiative or just acknowledgement of their fan base right now, performance aside?
Stop treating us like people who, are easy to sway, I guess. Like, stop talking in a way that is like, talk is cheap. Actions speak louder than words, I think is the saying. So it's a lot of that. It's a lot of acknowledging. It's not even acknowledging. They keep on coming back and acknowledging, that the fans in the South End, the fans in the stadium. I don't want to just say the South End itself. The fans are the heartbeat of the club. Well, if the fans are the heartbeat of the club, you've got to be doing more to, just not be telling us stuff and not backing it up. So it's at this point, it's more, the action that you talk about needs to actually happen.
The banner issue the last couple of weeks, I know it was from section 114, I believe, who had history, right? There's more to it perhaps than we know. What was your thoughts on that? Was there solidarity between the other fan groups?
There was. It wasn't a full, we had spoken, I'm not part of leadership anymore, but I do speak with, our current leadership. And they do convey to our members what they're doing with other supporters groups and how they're, making game day operations work and stuff like that. So they did, all the groups did band together and say, you know what, this game, we're not going to bring any banners. We're not going to bring any flags. We're not going to have any capos. We're just going to be sit silent. And there was talk about, a walkout, and it was like, if you want to leave in the 70th minute, and I'm like, I pushed back. I'm like, well, if you want to leave you're giving people the opportunity to leave in the 70th minute as sort of a walkout, but what if it's up 2-0? People aren't going to leave. Like, it's got to be, it's got to be a unified South. It's still a fractured South in many ways. But I mean, the banner thing, they did that, 2 years ago. They had a massive banner out. I can't remember what it was, but it was outside the stadium. And I love the stuff, like the stuff that goes over the lakeshore, on the bridge. It just keeps telling a message, and I think that's the thing that supporters need to keep pushing to get out to, so that media keeps pushing that, because the last thing the front office wants is negative press, and it seems like more and more the TFC has been pushed out of the mainstream of sports in the city. But if you have negative press, that negative press really moves the needle more than any type of positive whatever. So I think that's got to continue until we really do see that there is actionable things happening.
You see the management dealing with this at the same level, because Toronto Maple Leafs sell out regardless. They do well. The Raptors do well, but they're completely different animals compared to football. Do you think the management understands football enough to know that when things go bad, that fans react at a different level than we see in other sports here?
I think they do, but I think the way that they work within the MLS scheme of things is the exact same, whether it be how they run their security, how they run, how they treat fans, in a different way. It's very corporate in that way, if that makes sense. That, if you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan and you're in the Air Canada Centre, you get the same type of, they do have, obviously you have some more leeway in BMO Field with the flags and instruments and stuff like that maybe you wouldn't have that opportunity to do in other MLSC sporting arenas. But the way that everything is run is very corporate, strict in the way that it's run. So it doesn't really allow the full football experience, I guess you would say, if you watch how football is run in Europe or in South America. And I guess it tames it out a bit, because you don't want to go too far off the line, but there's got to be some leeway to that this is different.
Hey Brad, listen, I hope they get you back. I really do. I know how much you love this team deep down, and how much you love the sport. And when people like yourself are staying away, it's a real problem for ownership. So for you alone, TFC, please get this thing sorted out, because I can't handle seeing a broken Brad Humber.
Exactly.
It's time to turn this beast around. Thanks so much, mate. I really enjoyed this. Well, I didn't enjoy it. It was freaking depressing.
Yeah.
I enjoyed talking to you.
You know what? When they turn around, bring me back, and then I'll be in a much better mood, and I can tell you all the road trips that I'm going on and everything else.
Yes,
so.
We'll bring back more positive things.
Perfect.
Thanks, mate. Really appreciate it.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thanks, Brad.
See ya. That's Brad Humber. I tell you, I don't know if I know a bigger soccer fan than Brad Humber. Very few. And when he's staying away from this club. Now, on the other flip side, it's not necessarily easy to turn around a team just like that. It does take some time, especially when you have contracts, which are problems. I don't want to dwell on the Insigne. We've done that a million times already. But during the season, it's difficult to really do too much. Right now, of course, the way the windows work with the salary cap structure. But I think the concern is that there were, if not promises, there were suggestions that a lot would change this offseason, and it didn't. Like you mentioned there, that's the problem. So it's a big summer, but an even bigger offseason coming up this winter, when perhaps, when less is owed to Insigne, right? Which maybe makes it easier to move him. If not this summer, then certainly in the offseason.
There are so many rules in MLS that just shows you, when they brought in Besnichenko, how great a job that he did. Knowing all the little rules and how to get the GAM and the PAM and the
PAM. Just spray it everywhere.
And the salary cap. It's not an easy world, in the MLS when you have all those boundaries.
It disheartens me though when I see a fan being felt like he's a little broken from the loyalty that is given to clubs. In sales and marketing, we always talk about when you're putting a deal together, someone being in the funnel and the sales funnel, the marketing funnel, it's all a step towards your front gate. And we do that with Footy Prime. So that's why we really go out of our way to create communication with the people, whether it's YouTube, whether it's responding to our idiocy, whether it's all the above, and creating community. And when you lose someone, it takes like 5 times more work to win them back, or 10 times more work. So if they're losing a Brad Humber, who's all in at one point, and now he's spending more time, and this is what's it's sad for them, when he's spending more time with the Canadian national teams. And I know that Craig was telling me that Brad is actually in a TSN promo and they had to take out, was that Brad, right, Craig? Like, this guy is a diehard footy fan and has given a lot to supporting TFC, the Red Patch Boys, all the above. And to lose him, that just shows you how many other people have been lost throughout this. And to win those people back, it's not as simple as just saying, hey, come on back, we got a winning team. There are those who are going to jump back. Most will have, and this is why I asked about what he's doing now. He's actually given more time to opportunity cost to the Canadian national team. And he's probably already been there. But it's also, I'm going to go to the pub. Maybe that pub changes his lifestyle, right? So it's the pub making the money on his turnstile entry, not TFC, not MLSE.
Yeah, those are all really good points. But I think if I'm somebody, not just to add to it, and actually I'm somebody who looks at things optimistically, or I try to usually. So from TFC's perspective, as a franchise, as an organization, Brad was talking about how corporate they are and maybe unilateral, and they're thinking they need to bring in more football minds, that they're looking at these fans and these problems and they're finding solutions via a footballing person. I think that's really important. But I think the silver lining here is a guy like Brad, as you're saying, a football guy, they've maybe lost him. But I think overwhelmingly it's unrest, it's disillusionment, it's feeling like not disenfranchised, but disenchanted, certainly, right? But it's not apathy. I think once you get into apathy, then you're not winning those people back. But right now, there's still enough emotion in the anger that I think there's some good that could come from it, that if there's actionable change, that these people might start to come back. But they have to be really careful now, tread carefully, because once they don't give a fuck anymore, then you're screwed as a franchise.
Well, Brad's still watching the games, right? Every week.
Yeah.
Right. He ain't gone just yet. And I know he's angry, and you can tell that sentiment is there, but they can get him back, clearly. Like I said, when he's not watching those games on Apple each week, watch out. That's a big problem.
He gets into apathy.
Apathy? Apathy? Oh, yeah, that's pretty good, that one. Even though I didn't
that was.
I heard myself saying it, and I was like, should have kept it inside my brain.
No, that was a good one. But there is some apathy too, right? You see, I mean, other than Craig Forrest and his 5-star reviews of the Apple app.
Yeah, that's
there's a lot of apathy.